Now let's look at one of these intake and output sheets. It kind of helps because you have this very, a simple thing to put down the numbers. Here's the different times from 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. The main thing is you read this very carefully. There's some tricky things sometimes. During the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. shift. Okay, and here we have all the way, all those times in those. A patient has a total parenteral nutrition. Now this means he's getting all the nutrition through an IV bag. That doesn't matter if you know what the word means or not. But it has right here, the TPN, infusing at 75 milliliters per hour. Well, that means every hour in here, the TPN, you're giving 75 milliliters. Of course, you'd fill this out in the time. You wouldn't fill it all at the same time. 75, 7, I can write, okay. You do this as it's done. Every hour that goes by, you'd fill this out as to what that was. And you, of course, add this up at the end of the shift, and that's going to be 900 milliliters. Now, this next part can be a little tricky. It says also, the patient gets some IV fluids of normal saline, that's a common IV fluid, infusing at 100 milliliters per hour. So each hour that goes by, the IV will be dripped at 100, except look what it says though. An order is received to decrease the IV fluids to 50 milliliters per hour at 1 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock, you change that to 50 from the 100. So these are hundreds, then at 1 you change that to 50. But also look, the IV fluids are held for 1 hour while 1 gram of magnesium in 50 milliliters of D5Q is infused from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now this gets complicated. What it means is you're going to start the IV at 100 milliliters per hour, but from 9 until 10, we're going to discontinue the IV. So we turn it off. It's going to be 100 each of those hours. Up to that point, we turn it off and we give the IV medicine. Now here's what's also tricky. It says 1 gram of magnesium in 50 milliliters of D5Q. Doesn't matter what D5Q is. Here's the deal. Don't let this trick you. We don't care how much of the medicine is in the fluid. All we care about is how much of the fluid is being given. We're giving 50 milliliters. So we turn this off. We give 50 milliliters of the IV medicine at that hour. While this is off, we continue this back. But then, as it says here, at 1 o'clock, we reduce it to 50 milliliters per hour. And of course, at the end of the shift, you'd add all that up, all that right here, and that's going to be 800. Now, I'm trying to write around all this. It's kind of getting in the way. This, of course, the total here is 50. Let's see what else we have to do here. The patient consumes 8 ounces of broth at 2 p.m. Well, 8 ounces, here we go again. If you were to do the 8 ounces and convert the ounces into milliliters, 1 ounce is 30 milliliters. Of course, you might be doing this in your head by now. 8 times 30, that's 240. So it was at 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock right there. The oral amount is 240. And that's all the patient consumed orally. So the total here is 240. Keep going. Okay, at 6 p.m., the patient's Foley catheter is emptied. That goes into the urinary bladder. So we have here the urine at, let's see what time here. We said at 6 p.m. So at 6 p.m., the Foley catheter, just about going off your shift. We have 750 right there. The chest tube is 120. And we have the nasogastric tube. We emptied 240 milliliters of that. So the NG tube, 240 of that. So again, that's all the output we had. Add these up over here, 750, 240. 120. So the shift total of all this was, and doing the quick math here, 1,110 milliliters. The total shift of the intake here, doing the math here, 2040. So that's what you do with these. The big thing is you read very carefully and see when things are done, see if things change, etc. So you'll have some of these to do. They're not that hard. It's just a little sneaky because you have to read carefully.